Hello, this is Cassandra Arnold, and I'm providing an update to my mixed media proposal. The goal of my project is to help high school students use multimedia as well as Web 2.0 tools such as Facebook, Instagram, blogging, and Twitter to conduct quantitative or qualitative research about an area of interest in their community. I think this project will help students think critically about their community trends. It would also help them articulate their perspective about those community trends using visual literacy techniques, and they could also better understand the power of using these social media and multimedia tools in an academic and civic engagement setting. As we say, a picture is worth 1,000 words, but from the Design Principles and Design Elements course, we learned a picture is up to multiple interpretations, depending on the background or perspective of the viewer. So one thing I definitely learned from executing some of these design principles and elements, while they are challenging, it fosters creativity. However, you don't want the challenges of using the tools and using the technology to get in the way of you as a student seeing the big picture and understand what the benefit is of using some of these tools. So with that in mind, I made some adjustments to some of my initial proposal elements. For this proposal, I think students need to have a really finite thesis in philosophy. Previously I said that they would just explore a topic of interest in their community, but now they need to have a finite goal in terms of what exactly they want to explore. So for example, if they wanted to explore an environmental issue, they would need to be specific. Do they want to explore community gardens? Do they want to explore how to start a community garden? If they're exploring economic development, they would need to state a specific economic development proposal or project that they want to evaluate. Similar with politics or government agencies, is there a specific area that they need to address? Because honestly, learning about doing the research, these concepts are complex enough, and then also trying to use multimedia tools that even though they've learned how to use, like Facebook, social media, or Instagram, using it in a new way takes time. So by having them have a more finite thesis about what exactly they want to explore, it better focuses their attention. Also, with the complexity of learning these new skills and using the social media tools in a new way, I think more class demonstrations will be needed, whereas in the past I was focusing more on the fact that students would do this in their peer groups, and getting familiar and comfortable with the tools would be intuitive. What led me to this change of, I guess, perspective is in reading about the cognitive learning processes in multimedia, specifically the cognitive load theory by Mayer. It's true that as you're learning these new skills and techniques, even though you've had some previous experience, using them in a new way can be overwhelming. And using these visual literacy techniques of framing and how to put videos together and overlaying it with narrative and audio and sound, it can get frustrating, and students might lose sight of and get frustrated and diminish their creativity and their ultimate narrative that they want to project. So there were certain aspects of the course where I thought students would be able to tackle on their own, like creating their own collaboration site, like a Google site, so that they could work in groups with their peers and share videos and information and knowledge. I think I will take the lead for a course starts in order to do that. So the students just need to worry about posting and sharing knowledge rather than another, technology skill that they need to facilitate. I also think it's important that students, if they're going to learn about visual literacy, to understand why they're selecting a particular medium to communicate. So I would lead more group discussions or discussion prompts around why they're deciding to research a particular topic and why they're using a particular Web 2.0 or multimedia tool to research that. And not to question them, but to help them think deeper based on all the options provided to them, why they think this would be the best for them, and help guide them through that. I also think because of the there could be a difference of experience in using those tools. We take for granted that students are digital natives, but it doesn't mean they necessarily know how to use the tools in that way. I think a pre-survey is pretty important to assess, one, the student's level of experience with research, as well as their level of experience with using some of these social media tools. Because some students, honestly, they might just post and share videos, but have they ever created videos on their own or audio files on their own? I think we take for granted that it'll take minimal time to learn that, but then applying that knowledge in those concepts would be difficult. So the pre-survey would help gauge maybe there's a tool that might work well in this learning environment and a lot of the students have exposure to it. So it'd be nice to tailor some of the classroom demonstrations because it's something that's familiar to them. If there is no dominant tool or pre-knowledge, then that helps, I think, to inform the instructor, like myself, about what kind of tutorial videos would be helpful. Maybe they need a larger variety of tutorial videos than originally anticipated. So I think the pre-survey is going to be very helpful. Also, the method of communication matters. As I said, it's important for students to understand why they're using a particular tool, maybe even more important than using the tool correctly. So we need to have, I think, more why discussions. And again, not to challenge them, but to help make sure that they're using the right tool that's best for them in order to tell their story. And it also, I think, it's important to inform students about the importance of using social media for higher learning processes. So what I've been doing so far to make sure that the concepts of research and visual literacy come through, I have some of the learning objectives from the New Jersey Department of Education on contemporary history curricula, which actually promotes the use of digital tools in order to conduct research. So that's going to help frame the learning objectives. I've already started cataloging example videos that actually narrate trends in communities. So it gives the students, a sense of an end product. This is what your project could look like, or this is what we mean by visual literacy. So I think those are important videos to help frame this is the objective and the power of using social media, of using visual literacy tools and techniques. Also, I want to have a YouTube channel with how-to tutorials to help them kind of bridge that gap of, well, how do I use this if this is what I want to do. It is still important to have some how-to videos as well to get them over that learning curve. And also, just to take a step back and make sure I'm not missing some important steps in this creating this unit, I've been putting together a flow chart. My previous 60-second video was just an example of what you could do if you implemented, a research project from a historical perspective, but I think I needed to take a step back and look at the whole course. And so from that flow chart, I realized that I do need to do some pre-course activities. So I created this week 1 section where, as a facilitator, I need to create this collaboration site where I will have links to that YouTube channel. I'll have links to some example templates, some guidance around research, and then also before the course I would hope the students would access the course survey. One thing about flowcharting this did make me realize that there are a lot of simultaneous activities that need to occur. As the teacher, instructor, as myself or someone else, we need to think about what kind of materials and what kind of prompting questions we need to provide to the students so that they, individually as well as in groups can have productive discussions about the research that they're doing, and they can ask each other the right questions to help them progress to the next level. And of course, this is a work in progress, and my goal in this is to identify, steps in this proposal or in the eventual unit that are extemporaneous. It's procedures that don't really help with the learning objectives versus what are some of the, very important questions or projects or activities we need to do to make sure the goal of learning research and visual literacy are met. So by framing this out in a flowchart is helping me to identify important steps as well as steps that might not be as important as I originally thought. So the next steps is to definitely learn a little bit more about some of those cognitive processes. They really, I think, help me to kind of identify some of those procedural steps that are not necessary, such as having a student create their own collaborative site within their groups, as well as some ways to frame and segment the learning of research and visual literacy so that students don't get overwhelmed. I definitely found with my experience in the Google Plus sites, Teach Thought were the best, and I actually got a response post from Digital Leadership. All the Google Plus sites, they definitely didn't feel that it was for marketing purposes. People were definitely sharing insights, and it was on a wide range of subjects. It included how-to in terms of teaching actual units and modules. It was also, there were definitely some focused posts about a particular tool. There were definitely a lot of policy discussions, like, what does blended learning or personalized learning or student-led learning mean to you? What I like about Teach Thought is that they posted a lot of guidance around helping students think. So it wasn't necessarily subject-based, like this is a history course, this is a math course, a geology course. It was all about how to use a teacher kind of create a framework so that you're guiding the student throughout the module regardless of the subject area, which is what I kind of need right now. So even though I was initially disappointed that people weren't necessarily responding to my initial post, which was basically, here's this project I'm working on, has anybody worked on this before, has anybody used any tools for this type of learning project, I think what I would do is, I would state, here are some of the tools I'm using and this is how I'm using them. Any thoughts? And maybe I'll get a more concrete response. People will have something more concrete to generate. But still, as I said, some of the posts are still very informative, even though they're not responding to my post directly. I did also post, there is a teacher that I follow on Twitter, and she actually released a book, and it's about hacks, technology hacks that you can use in the classroom. So I actually posted that on one or two of the Google Plus community sites, and I communicated her via direct message. So I definitely want to keep in touch with that particular resource. I'll also be developing the pre-course surveys, and also what I would say after each week have feedback surveys to make sure that the students are grasping the learning concepts. So I want to create surveys for those weekly prompts. That'll be important. And also making sure that my discussion prompts are facilitative and not lecture based, so that when we're asking why questions, it's not to make sure it's to make sure the students understand why they're doing what they're doing. It's not to cause them to change their mind. And as with the collaboration site, I haven't decided whether it should be a blog or format or a website format. So that I'll probably be working on in the next couple of weeks. So, if anybody has any questions or comments about the project or some of the insights that I've shared, please feel free to access my blog and post your feedback and comments there, as well as within our Canvas class portal. Thank you.